Welcome to the spirit world, answering your questions on angels, demons, and how the spiritual and physical worlds interact. And now your hosts, Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Spirit World. I am Debbie Georgianni with religious demonologist and co-host Adam Bly, and today is our Mailbag edition. So no phone calls today. We are going through the 120 emails we have received. That's right. A lot of emails are coming into the Spirit World, and we are diving into the mailbag for this November to finish up and get ready for the winter months. And you can keep sending your emails in, and that's wonderful. But this November mailbag edition is for you to get your questions answered. And we're going to dive right in just a moment, because we always begin with the St. Michael prayer, Adam.
Name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so Adam, if our listeners wanted to send an email in we're probably going to do another mailbag not till probably January. We'll start off the new year. We're kind of finishing off 2025, so that's why we're having this mailbag edition. So if you want to send emails in, and we'll address another mailbag show in January or February, all you have to do is send it to TSW, that's the Spirit World, at grnonline.com. Okay, so Adam, no phone calls today. We're diving into the mailbag like I promised, and here's the issue. We have 120 emails, and they are very detailed, okay, with personal experiences. So Adam and I and the show team, mainly our senior producer, Tim, did such a great job. We are separating the emails by topics and in different categories. So we'll address the topic, and hopefully that will suffice, and that will help when you sent in a email and you can relate it to your own situation. Now, we read everything. We want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. The kind words you said about the Spirit World and about us and the show team. We just love you to pieces. With the Spirit World listeners, you are incredible. You are family to us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep sending the emails in. Now, we've divided it into 7 categories, Adam, and we'll address these in a general sense. And we'll keep everybody's, private information private, their names and stuff. But we will address certain emails that pertain to how we're covering this topic. So if it's okay with you, Adam, let's jump right in, and we'll hit the first category that came in. Several emails on this topic about people sensing evil spirits around them. People sensing evil spirits. So with family members, friends, they're kind of getting this sensitive feeling inside that this person may have an issue. What do you say about that? Have you ever experienced that in the work that you do? Is that something that can happen with people that become more spiritual, that they can start to get really sensitive to these things?
It's an interesting question. So discernment of spirits, which is kind of what a sensitivity to spirits would be called in the church. Discernment of spirits isn't something that just comes along with being more spiritual. It's not like an automatic side effect of, I get more spiritual, get closer to God, and therefore I can feel when things are around. Discernment of spirits is considered a charism, meaning a very specific gift from God that isn't given to everybody. And remember, charisms are given by God in order to do some ministry that God has decreed or appointed for that person's life. And so, you'll think of something like Padre Pio in the Reading of Hearts, meaning like if you didn't confess your sins, he would know what they were and remind you in the confessional so you could confess them. That reading of hearts or knowing somebody's sins is not something that everybody has. It's not something that comes just because you get closer to God or you're living a particularly holy life. That was given to Padre Pio specifically so he could be a great confessor and lead to the conversion of people. He was doing a ministry with it. Okay. So charisms like the discernment of spirits, again, doesn't just happen to everybody. And, you know, we hear a lot of people saying like, oh, I'm sensitive to things. And there can be gifts, you know, that people have that you haven't come to the season of your life where, you know, that's meant to be used. But more often than not, I think that these are just psychological reactions. The brain can produce a lot of odd sensations, and we can have an intuition. Like when you walk in a room and you say like, oh, you know, across the room I saw that person and I just knew I had to go talk to them, and we clicked right away and it was wonderful. Or somebody says it was love at first sight, you know, when I first met this person, this kind of instant reaction. Mm-hmm. And then there's other people where you say like, oh, got a really bad vibe from them. Often the really bad vibe thing is kind of the intuition that comes with all kinds of very subtle clues in the person's body language, the way they speak, that we kind of feel as an intuition and we pick up on, but we don't realize we're picking up on it.
Yeah.
So I'll
the
give
subtle clues that give you an indication that this person is not somebody you want to talk to or somebody you're really drawn to. Yeah. So
I'll give you a really concrete example, really briefly. In graduate school, I was studied psychophysiology, so like bodily manifestations of thoughts and emotions and things like that, and specifically brainwaves. But along the way, I read about this really interesting work that was done, I believe it was in the 60s, and they took film footage. Now, this wasn't cameras. Remember, this is like actual film, you know, like it was 60 frames a second, which is faster than movies, you know, and it was done in a lab. And they just had people having conversations, and they would film both of their faces. And they found that when they analyzed it frame by frame, the people that were in sync and understanding each other and agreeing with what they were talking about, there was very micro movements in the facial muscles down to a 60th of a second.
Wow.
That were in sync when the people were agreeing with each other, and they were out of sync when they were disagreeing with each other. So my point is that there are extremely subtle physiological clues that our bodies are giving off that we're unaware of, and we're unaware that we're picking up on them. But that's what we call instinct, or my stomach, or my gut. And lots of people have described experiencing that. So
fascinating.
So basically what I'm saying is that, yes, there is discernment of spirits, but I think usually it's more about I'm reacting to my background with this person, or they said something I don't like, or something in their body language is setting me off.
That makes sense. Okay, again, I wanted to share this because this is a pre-recorded broadcast, new content. It's our Mailbag edition. We're kind of wrapping everything up for 2025, and we're going to head into 2026 with some new emails that you're going to send in at tsw@grnonline.com. And just as a friendly reminder, when you send an email in, we're not necessarily going to respond with another email back to you because you've got a lot of details in your story. We're reading everything though, and so we're making sure that we address it on a future show or a future Mailbag edition. So please know that it's going to be very hard at this point when we're getting over 100 emails coming in on a regular basis. It's going to be hard for us to respond. I know some of you have asked for some responses by email, or if we could call you. We'll try our hardest to either address it on air or with an email if it's something that's really urgent. But just keep in mind that we're trying so hard just to cover these topics so that everybody can get a better understanding of this area that we're working in ministry, and a solid catechesis. So that's the main goal. So if you can keep listening to the Spirit World, you'll probably hear your question answered. Okay, I think I covered that. I got a nod from my senior producer, so that's great. But Adam, back to this about sensing, and you're talking about discernment of spirits being a gift, and it's usually given as a real direct response from God for a certain purpose. And that is so true. You see that with the saints who had that. Absolutely. And I'm not saying that other people can't have it or can't, acquire that, or maybe God is tapping you, but something that also I would just suggest is that you talk it over with a priest and a spiritual director, just to make sure that indeed it is a God-given gift that you have received, or you feel like you've received. It's always good to submit that to church authority just to make sure you're on the right track. I would just say that. Now, we got several questions on this, Adam, and we're going to take our first break, but I want to just address this one wonderful Spirit World listener that came in on Facebook. And she said, one of my grown kids is being influenced by evil and seemed to leave spirits behind in my house. How should I interact with him so I could stay safe? I blessed his forehead as usual with holy water as he was leaving, and he yelled at me and said not to ever do that again, which totally shocked me. I have done that for 31 years of his life. And then she goes on to say there's more details to this story. But I want to talk about this on the other side of the break, Adam, because I want to share a story that happened with my dear friend when she was using holy water. And I want to ask you your responses on this, because I think this could help our Facebook listener here, because this is something we're going to encounter with people, even in our own homes, because people are dabbling in the occult and they are doing things that they shouldn't be doing spiritually. And so what happens when they do kind of break that barrier and come into our home? Now, I also want you to get into the Epiphany blessing and share the story of that, Adam, when we come back from this very short break. Okay, you hear the music right on cue. This is our mailbag edition for the Spirit World. No phone calls today, but we're diving in, and we are literally diving into these 120 emails, and we're trying to separate them by topics so we can address them, and hopefully your concerns and questions will be answered today. Okay, but keep sending those emails in, tsw@grnonline.com. And I just got the word, Adam, we probably will do another mailbag at the start of 2026. So that's going to be fantastic. All right, when we come back, more of your questions, more of your concerns and topics that we all may encounter. And Adam's got the answers, so let's keep listening.
How many times have you heard the complaint that the church is boring? Well, the problem is not that church is boring, it's that we are bored. We are the problem. We've lost our childlike sense of wonder. G.K. Chesterton says the children have abounding vitality, and yet they want things repeated and unchanged. They always say, "Do it again," and the grown-up person does it until he's nearly dead. For grown-up people are not strong enough to exult in monotony, but perhaps God is strong enough to exult in monotony. It's possible that God says every morning, "Do it again" to the sun, and every evening, "Do it again" to the moon.
Spend more time with the Apostle of Common Sense. Visit chesterton.org for more information.
Want some more peace in your life? Need some more grace in your day? Want to wake up each morning excited about life again? Life coaching is there for you. We have a team of dedicated coaches willing to assist you in creating a plan for a better future with God as the focus. Jesus said, "I came for you to have life and to have it to the full." So begin anew at standtalltoday.com. standtalltoday.com.
The Spirit World continues with Debbie Georgiani and Adam Bly. We're not taking live phone calls today. Please email your questions to tsw@grnonline.com.
Okay, we are back, and we are back into the mailbag, and we're addressing some of these things about sensing evil spirits. That's the category topic we're talking about right now. And I shared with you, Adam, before the break about this wonderful mom who is really trying to keep evil outside of her home and away from her, and she wants to stay safe. And unfortunately, her son is being influenced, and he's bringing that into the home. And he even yelled at her when she tried to bless his forehead that she has done for 31 years of his life with holy water. So I want to share a story with you about this holy water, and then I want you to share if what she should do to stay safe, what we should all do to stay safe and keep evil out, keep evil away from us, and then talk about the Epiphany blessing. But let me add this real life story, because I find this one to be fascinating. I was sharing it with our senior producer earlier, and it's just so interesting. So my wonderful friend for many years left the Catholic faith, and her husband decided that they were spiritual, not religious, right, for many years. But then her husband went one step further. And by the way, he was an altar server. He was raised in the church, went to Catholic school, and he decided he was an atheist. And he decided that he was no longer going to believe in God. God didn't exist, and he did everything possible to try and prove to my friend that how the Bible is wrong, and this is wrong, and that is wrong. And he did this for many years. Well, my friend came back to her Catholic faith, and she was really just coming alive in her belief, and she was so grateful to God that she was back in the church. And she decided to do something a little unique. She always used to, her husband used to do a lot of work, and he would get very sore muscles in his neck at night. And so she would always give him a neck massage just to relax him, because he was very tense. And she decided to put holy water one time in the lotion. Blessed, holy water. Okay. She put it in the lotion. Now, she's been massaging his neck for 25 years, Adam. No response. He was tense, always felt better afterwards. This first time she put holy water mixed it in the lotion, the moment her hands touched his neck, he recoiled, he bristled, he said to her, "What did you put on me? What did you put on me?" He was angry. And she goes, nothing. And he goes, "No, there's something you put on me." And he said to her, "Was that holy water?" Mm-hmm. And she said, "Yes." And then they didn't talk about it after that. Now, my question is, what was that? How did a person, he had no idea she put holy water in that lotion. She has given him a neck massage for 25 years, never had a problem. But then he has this kind of response. Now, this young man had this similar response with his mother, but although, obviously he saw her putting the holy water on his forehead and he didn't want it. What is that response? Because obviously there's something there. Do you see it with people that are possessed?
Well, sure, you see it with people that are possessed because there are demons in them that are reacting to the holy water. I'm not saying her husband's possessed, but when we work with people and we apply relics or we sprinkle them with holy water during the exorcisms, and again, these are possessed people, so this is the deep end of the swimming pool. There's actual demons, and the word "in" is difficult because they're not physical, but that are in them and reacting to the holy water. Even when they're completely in the human state, they'll react to the holy water because the demon in them is reacting, and they'll feel agitated or fearful or something. And the demons describe holy water as burning. Anything holy, they'll say it burns.
Okay, that's what he said to her. He said there was it felt like something hot.
Well, I'm not diagnosing him, but in general, if somebody's experiencing holy water as hot and something they want to get away from, mm-hmm. there could be some type of attachment. I'm not saying possession, but
right.
there could be an evil spirit there that's maybe oppressing the person or. Remember,
right.
they tempt us. They're around. You can't be completely free of them. It's like bacteria. They're kind of everywhere, and they tempt us, and God allows that. So you can't completely get rid of them. But if you're feeling like that holy water burns you, that may be an indication there's like an oppression or something more serious going on.
So if that's happening to a person, or they feel so repulsed by having something, holy near them or touching them, they really need to go to confession and clear this. I mean, that's a dangerous spiritual state to be in.
I would. And I would interpret that as God giving this person a clue. God is giving him a corrective experience or a reminder,
right?
That everything is real and it matters. And particularly, like, I never encourage people to be sneaky and like hide things or lie about things, but he wasn't aware that the holy water was there.
He wasn't.
And so, yeah, so that even more so makes it sound like it's probably a spiritual reaction, because if you knew it was there psychologically, you could, kind of fake yourself out, and your brain could produce some
right.
kind of reaction, just
right.
psychologically saying, oh, I should react to that, even unconsciously. But yeah, definitely pray for him, and ideally he would get to confession.
Yeah. The interesting thing, though, he had no idea she had holy water in the home. And how did he know it was holy water? That's the interesting thing. So because he was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, brought up in the church, an altar server. Isn't that interesting that he had that kind of muscle memory, if you will?
Well, it's a spiritual reaction for sure.
Okay. Interesting.
And this, related to our previous question when we were talking about discernment of spirits before the break, this isn't discernment of spirits. This is a spirit reacting to something holy. Gotcha. That not his spirit, but some other spirit maybe near him or attached to him in some way.
So let me ask you this question, and let's talk about this mom who wants to keep herself safe in her home and not have this evil be brought in. I want you to talk about the Epiphany blessing, and then also talk about things that we can all do as parents and grandparents, and we don't want this into our homes, right? But Adam, let me just ask you this question. Is that why when people are struggling, when they're having a crisis of faith, when they are struggling or they're going through something, or they feel very distant from God, I see this. I saw this a lot when I was a spiritual director, but I see it now as I'm a life coach. I see it a lot with people. When they are struggling spiritually, they have a hard time staying in church and being in church. They'll say things like, I can go to adoration, but just for a couple minutes, then I have to get out of there. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting, the words they're choosing. Like it's almost like a panic attack is happening to them. Can you explain like what happens? I mean, now obviously these people aren't possessed or anything of that nature, because that's the extreme end of something. But when these attacks from the demons start to penetrate your own spiritual routine or regimen like that, where it's coming at you as a negative, obviously you're going to say, go to confession and get yourself in a good place and state of grace. But what can a person do practically, because they're struggling with that? And what do you see with the levels of activity with the demons?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's three possibilities if you feel uncomfortable at adoration and at Mass and don't want to go there. Number one, it could be purely psychological. You're feeling conflicted about religion. You've always been religious before, perhaps. And this is a big thing in your life. Maybe maybe you're angry with God because a loved one died. And, you've got all these feelings that's stirring up.
Right.
God, just the idea of God can stir up feelings. And so maybe you want to avoid, those kind of feelings. So it could be purely psychological. Secondly, it could be spiritual in the good sense, that God is touching their heart and saying, come back to me, be close to me. And when they feel that tug on their heart from God, that scares them, because, again, they have some reason that they're being distant from the faith at the moment. Mm-hmm. And so they feel that presence of God, and they say, oh, if I acknowledge the presence of God, then, that leads to me dealing with all my conflicts or whatever it might be.
Right. You have to make some changes. Mm-hmm.
And then thirdly, if they've fallen so far that they're getting really deep into sin, or maybe they're playing with black magic or experimenting with, the occult as alternative, quote unquote, religion, there could be an evil spirit there that's basically saying, get out of here. And generally you see that more with possessed people.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
The voices and it's different than schizophrenia. We've been over that 1,000 times. But the demons that are able to communicate to them will scream at them, "Get out of here."
Oh, interesting. Wow. Okay, talk before we hit the next pause button, because this is our Mailbag edition, new content show, pre-recorded broadcast just for you to address all of these emails that we have received. Over 120 emails have come in, and we're separating them into categories and trying to address them so we can reach more of your get the responses back to you by way of this episode. So please continue to listen as we hit the next category on the other side of the break. But Adam, Epiphany blessing, isn't that a great way to protect the home for this mom here? And how else can we stay safe in our home?
Well, first off, we don't want to be anxious thinking that, somebody's fallen away from the faith. Maybe they're experimenting with other things that we don't like and we consider them evil. Just because they come in the home doesn't mean that demons jump off them and set up camp and now they're in your house. They would have to leave something behind that's been cursed, that the demons are attached to when they depart. So them being there, I would see that as an opportunity for love and for healing and for grace, that a parent-child relationship is a strong one. It's a God-given relationship because God is the author of life. It's an opportunity for them to honor their father and mother and be obedient to that commandment. It's an opportunity for mom to be loving and receptive to their child. So I would see it in that positive sense. And in terms of being safe, just try to not sin in your home. Have the home blessed. The Epiphany blessing of the threshold, I know you want to get to that. It's a wonderful blessing that we can talk about on the other side.
Yeah, because we're coming up on a new year, so it'll be wonderful to have that Epiphany blessing. So, yeah, let's hold it there. You can share more about that, and maybe that story that you told us that time a while back about people not being able to enter into a home with the Epiphany blessing. That's very interesting. This is our Mailbag edition of the Spirit World. No phone calls today, but hopefully we'll get your question answered. But keep listening. See if you learn something new, and share this broadcast with a friend. Would you do that for us? Or subscribe to the podcast. All you have to do is search the Spirit World in any podcast app and subscribe. Okay, we'll be right back.
This is a Messy Family Minute with Mike and Alicia Hernan. We love the rosary, but when you have a group of rambunctious children, the thought of praying a family rosary can be kind of daunting.
Maybe it's because your ideal way of praying a family rosary doesn't match reality. Or maybe you've always found it just tough to pray the rosary. But it is a most powerful prayer. Our Lady gave it to us to encourage, protect, and sustain us.
You may feel like your family is bad at praying the rosary, but the good news is that there's lots of ways to use this powerful weapon of prayer. Prepare the environment. Get rid of phones, put away distracting toys, light candles, wait till everyone's calm, maybe even on the way to bed.
Or take it outside. If your kids are too energetic, do a walking rosary. And don't forget car trips when the kids are locked in your vehicle. And a rosary on the way to Mass is a great preparation. For more on this topic, listen to our podcast on family prayer at messyfamilyminute.org.
Stand Tall is now offering advanced group coaching sessions with master coaches highly trained in life skills. Visit standtalltoday.com and register for one of our upcoming group coaching events. These virtual opportunities are designed to take you to the next level of life in your relationships, career, faith walk, and so much more. Space is limited. Hurry to standtalltoday.com and sign up for one of our advanced group coaching sessions. standtalltoday.com.
The Spirit World continues with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly. We're not taking live phone calls today. Please email your questions to tsw@grnonline.com.
We're not taking your phone calls today because this is a pre-recorded broadcast put together by our senior producer, Tim, doing a great job from Guadalupe Radio Network. We're heard all over the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network, so we're so grateful to EWTN. Also, too, Adam, I know that a lot of our listeners are hearing the Stand Tall spots, and I just wanted to let our listeners know that our nonprofit arm of Stand Tall, One Faith, is back up and running, and we have our life coaching assistance program that's continuing. So if anyone wants to visit that and make a donation, we would be very grateful, because we're trying to keep the coaching costs down so that everybody can have access to really great coaches and get on a wonderful plan and path and spiritual path for their life. So, if you can visit us there at standtalltoday.com. Anything you can do, pray for us. We would appreciate it. We're getting a lot of clients from around the world, and it's wonderful to see them just take on their life with purpose and passion, Adam. And that's one of the reasons that we just absolutely love the spirit world, because with this solid catechesis on the invisible world, it really helps everybody that listens live their most confident spiritual life. And that's what we want. Well-informed, well-formed, and living a great spiritual life. So back to the Epiphany blessing, Adam. I want you to share that story, because I thought it was a powerful one.
Yeah, so that some people may have seen over the years, it kind of was an old-fashioned blessing. You didn't see it all the time. But inside the house, over the door, in white chalk, you would see 4 crosses and CMB between the crosses, and then the year on the outside, like 2025. And that's the Epiphany blessing of the threshold. It's a very old traditional blessing in the church. It doesn't have an exact fixed language to the blessing, but the blessing for the chalk to prepare to do that does have a fixed blessing. So there's different traditional versions of it around the world. So there's not any one way to do it. Certainly it could just be done merely by writing that. But a lot of priests and a lot of parishes or dioceses have some blessing that goes with it. Now, the one that we use in kind of the exorcism community came down to me from the Benedictine order, from a Benedictine exorcist friend many, many years ago, and that includes language in it like, "May God's angels stand guard at the right and the left of this doorway, and may the spirits of evil never cross this threshold." There's things like that in it. And so, what you're referencing, over the years, at least 2 or 3 or maybe 5 times, we've had situations where there's a full-on possessed person, and after that blessing is done on the doorway, in one case they fled the house and never came back. In another case, they were at the hospital being evaluated at an ER, and when they came home, they couldn't enter the house. They ended up renting a trailer for them, and they lived in the yard for 6 months, and then the family eventually moved south. Another one, it was done in a bedroom in the house, and the possessed person came back from an eval at the ER, different situation, and they couldn't walk through the open door of their bedroom. And so that they'll literally stop at the doorway like they're kind of hitting something solid, and say that basically they can't walk through. They don't understand why, what's happening. Why can't I walk in my room?
Wow.
So yeah, it's, now again, what God does with these blessings is up to God. I'm not saying that, guaranteed this will happen if a possessed person is there. God does whatever he wants, but the blessing does make that request, at least the version that we use.
Mm-hmm. I love and marking the home with the Epiphany blessing, I think, is so powerful. I just love it. And the faith that you have in the home really matters. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to put the blessing on and everything's covered.
It's not a magic incantation.
Right.
Yeah, it's important to remember these are prayers and blessings, and in sacramentals, the chalk is a sacramental.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so speaking about food, a relative, a friend, maybe dabbling in the occult, brings food to your home, a dessert, Thanksgiving, or Christmas, or, New Year's or whatever, and brings something to your home. And what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Say grace before meals. That's what you've said. That's what we've all said. Grace after meals. I mean, definitely, I don't know. Do you eat it? Do you reject it? What do you do?
Well, I mean, if it was me, I'm very careful with stuff like this, because I never want to encourage families to have division or have a rift in relationships or anything like that. But if somebody, has told you they're actively involved in some pagan religion, and they bring a food item over or something to drink, Personally, I would say, like, well, did you do your version of a blessing over this? Like we say grace over food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these pagan religions have their own version of some type of ritual or quote-unquote prayer.
Right.
It's not a prayer to the Creator as a rule, but a prayer of some kind, meaning a conversation, with whatever pagan spirit they're dealing with. Personally, if it was me, I would just say, just please don't bring any food or drink if I knew somebody was involved in that stuff. Because I'm not going to eat or drink any of it, even if I prayed over it first, and said grace. Personally, I wouldn't, because I've seen so many cases where serious spiritual problems started from consuming food that was cursed, that had demons attached to it. I've even encountered, a possessed person who willfully did that when they cut their deal when they were younger. And it never works out, by the way. Whenever you're at your peak of what you think you asked for, it all gets torn away and you end up worse off than when you started. Every time. Devil never works out. But anyway, I'm not going to give the details of it, but that was involved in what they did when they willfully became possessed, making a bad choice as a young person in exchange for things they were asking for.
So just to put people at peace and calm, you go to a restaurant, you don't know who's preparing your food in the kitchen there. You don't know that. You don't know even if they're dabbling in something. So that's all the more reason to say grace before your meal. Definitely say grace and take your time and really, really pray before you consume anything. Wouldn't you say, Adam, if you're in a public place?
Yeah, so we don't want to have too much anxiety about going out to eat. So, say grace, pray a bit before you consume things. That's good. Even if somebody's involved in bad stuff, they're probably not taking the time to pause in the middle of cooking and take something over in the corner and do a 20-minute ritual over it before it's served to the people. That's just not practical, right? They're working there. There's other people in the room. That kind of stuff, that would be usually done. That's not going to happen.
Gotcha.
So I wouldn't worry that, there's some kind of big ritual being done over food.
Right. But I think it's great to say grace,
Always,
especially in public,
always.
because you're also having that Christian witness, which
You're
is
evangelizing.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Okay, so Adam, next category, okay? We've got a few emails that have come in from like New Jersey and Ohio and other places around the country. We've gotten some international emails as well, and I'm just going to group it all together so we can address it. These are from Wonderful Spirit World listeners that are here. Sometimes they're hearing voices of, and they're not quite sure if it's their guardian angel or if it's a message coming from God or from an evil spirit. So they may be hearing voices. Also, too, we have quite a few that came in that they are dreaming of people right before they die. They'll have a dream and then the person dies. And then they'll sometimes receive messages that indeed their dream was correct, that actually did happen. And so also too, deceased loved ones, they're also hearing and feeling their presence. So do you want to just kind of put those all together and let's see? That's a whole show.
Okay,
But,
so really quick, if you're literally hearing voices, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but if you're literally hearing voices, you need to talk to your doctor first. You've got to rule out the medical hypothesis first.
Right.
Don't jump to the hypothesis that it's spirits and skip over the much more likely chance that it's an infection causing a hallucination, that it's, menopause and hormonal changes interacting with something else, that it's mental illness coming on. You've got to rule those things out. It's just not rational to jump to, the 1 in 1,000 chance that it's a spirit talking to me, and I'm going to assume that's it, and I'm going to skip all these things like a UTI, urinary tract infection, causes hallucinations in a lot of women. There's lots of things in the medical world that can cause hallucinations. So that would be my number one thing, because I have this conversation with people every single week, multiple times a week, where they're misunderstanding medical or psychological things. Mm-hmm. I know we have to get to a break, but...
so you got to rule out the brain health issues first, or something that's going on. Okay.
Yeah, the psychological. And then if it is, angels don't have conversations with us. if they deliver a message, it's a one-way thing. They deliver it, boom, it's done. It's not an ongoing dialogue or an ongoing monologue.
And it's usually very urgent, like
Yeah.
in the moment. Like a car accident is about to happen and they say, put your seatbelt on, and you just know that came from a guardian angel, right?
Yeah,
So.
very brief. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you handled that beautifully. If you want to send in more emails on this, feel free to do so. tsw@grnonline.com. This will be our final break, and we come back. More of your mailbag questions and comments. Again, thank you so much. Adam and I are so humbled by all your kind words. Oh my goodness, you love the spirit world, and we love being with you every single Saturday. So please thank Guadalupe Radio Network and EWTN, because that's how you're hearing this broadcast. And so stay with us for this final segment as we talk about aliens. Ooh, that's going to be a good topic when we come back.
Can we be happy without God? Atheists say yes, we Christians say yes, but only to a certain extent. What's our reason? There are some natural human desires that can be satisfied without living for God. The desire for sensory pleasure, success, and loving relationships. There are certain desires, however, that can't be satisfied without God. For example, we don't just desire some love, we desire infinite love, love without limit. This is manifest when we get frustrated with imperfect manifestations of it. The same is true for knowledge, justice, and beauty. Since God alone is infinite in these perfections, only He can satisfy our desires for them. Therefore, to borrow from St. Augustine, without God, our hearts would be forever restless. And my friends, a restless heart is an unhappy heart. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
Major decisions can feel daunting. Do you feel lost and alone? Not sure what path to take? Life coaching may be the right option for you. Whether it's practicing accountability or creating a better plan that works in your life. We are here to serve with Christ, always at the center. God's plan is always the best plan for us. We just may not be able to see it right now. Let us help at standtalltoday.com.
The Spirit World continues with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly. We're not taking live phone calls today. Please email your questions to tsw@grnonline.com.
Okay, we are back for the final segment of the mailbag edition of the Spirit World. Thank you so much for sending in your questions and comments. We so appreciate them. Especially, we love hearing from our international listeners, like from the UK and other areas. You guys are incredible. You love the Spirit World. That's awesome. Okay, so this wonderful couple from listening to the Spirit World sent in this email about, they were wondering our thoughts in regards to aliens from outer space. Some Christians believe aliens from outer space are demonic. What do you think? So they're asking us what we think. I actually was very interested in this many years ago. I don't know if you've ever heard of the episode of the Phoenix Lights. It was many years ago. And so that's when I got interested, and I did a deep dive research on it, and it's fascinating. And I remember talking to my late uncle, Father Sylvester Lavolsi, and I asked him about it, and he gave a very interesting answer. So I just... yeah, this is a cool topic. It's kind of you see it on the internet a lot. People are talking about aliens now. So what do you say, Adam?
Well, gosh, it's a big topic. It's always been of interest, for a long, long time. No simple definitive answer, of course, because I'm not privy to all the information, right? Oh my. Well, I suppose it could be demonic. I personally Deb, I think it's much more likely that this is advanced technology that's 30 years ahead of what we're aware of, either adversaries or our own, because we typically learn about basically the really cutting edge stuff 20 to 30 years after the military's already been using it. And that's natural enough. You want to keep your best things, secret for as long as possible. If you've developed some new technology like gravity propulsion or something like that. Who knows if they have that? I don't know. So given that we've seen technologies revealed to us, that it's like, oh yeah, this thing's being retired. It's been in use since the 70s, and it, like the Black Hawk or something like that. And now we can tell you about it. Mm-hmm. There's us and there's other countries that have got really advanced science.
Sure. And
so to me, given that we've seen that pattern before, jumping to the incredibly unusual hypothesis that it's aliens seems like a logical kind of misstep, given that, we're pretty bright and we've come up with some wild stuff in the past. And to me, that just seems more plausible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, and that's your opinion, correct? That's your opinion based on your understanding of this and the work that you do in exorcism work. So, rather than, you would say it's more advanced technology rather than demonic, or what are you basing that on?
Just common sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Just common sense.
Okay, cool. All right, that's good. Well, and so when I was interested in this, and I asked my late uncle, who was a very amazing priest. He taught in seminaries in Canada, all over the place, spoke 5 languages. He was just incredible. I asked him about this, and I said, do aliens exist? And his answer was this, and I thought it was interesting. He said, well, we're not sure, but why, if God chose to create other beings, he can do it. He's God. But it doesn't concern us. Mm-hmm. It doesn't concern us. And the obsession that we have with them is, again, what I would say, what you say, common sense or just a practical understanding. It's what you have said from day one when I met you, Adam, and started working in ministry with you. You said we got to keep focused on God and not have all these things be distractions. And that's what they are, all distractions. Are aliens gonna save us? I don't think so, right? So, I mean, we really need to focus on what is important. So I go back to what you have always said, Adam, and so that was his answer. He said, if they are created, God can do whatever he wants. What do you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing like every generation thinks they're living in the end times, right? They thought that in World War II. They thought that during the Dust Bowl. Basically, every generation thinks that. And instead of worrying about that, just get yourself in order now. And then if it is, it is.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't change anything.
Right.
So instead of worrying about aliens, get your spiritual life in order. And if that's revealed at some point, well, that'll be interesting. I like science fiction.
Right.
But,
right.
I wouldn't waste a lot of energy on it because we're just
Exactly.
not privy to all the information.
Right. And you've said this too, Adam, and that's why I wanted you to share your assessment of this or your opinion of this based on the ministry work you do. The demons will use anything. They're opportunists. They'll leverage anything to get us off the mark, right?
Right. So in terms of the spiritual dimension, it's not so much whether there are aliens or not, but will the devil capitalize on it and use it? Yes, absolutely. We see that in the exorcisms, like any misfortune or disease or whatever that befalls somebody who's possessed or a family member of theirs in the course of the time that they're being prayed for. They always take credit for it and say, see, we gave you this disease.
Exactly.
See, we killed so-and-so. They take credit for everything because anything that makes us lose faith and love and trust in God to them is good. Mm-hmm. So sure, they would love to say, yeah, there's absolutely aliens. See, they're the ones that made you, not God.
Right.
That's what they care about. They don't so much care about the actual lie. They just care about distracting you from God.
Gotcha. Okay, so in the final few minutes that we have, Adam, a lot of questions in this area, so you're going to have to really give us the Reader's Digest answer to this, Adam. Deliverance prayers. Everybody's asking about deliverance prayers. What should they do to protect themselves? Generational curses, all sorts of things. Adam, please share with our listeners. I know you have probably a dozen times, but it seems as though all over social media, that's all you're hearing is the recipe of all these different deliverance prayers that you have to say 10 times as you're, walking around the house.
Yeah. I'm considering writing a book on this, but I'm not sure yet. Okay, so a few things. The church actually has spoken on the multi-generational family curse thing and said that that's incompatible with Christianity. So we are not to embrace that stuff. It's kind of saying like, I'm being beset upon because Grandpa was involved in this occult stuff, and therefore I'm paying the price for it.
Right.
It's basically incongruent with God's justice that I would pay a spiritual price for somebody else's sin. We pay the price for our own sins. Now, deliverance prayers, that's a broad umbrella for like freedom from anything. Generally, I would say freedom from anything that's spiritually caused. So, yeah, you could kind of say, like, I think the church would say if it's just a natural disease, but you get miraculously healed of it, they would call that a healing. Now, but deliverance is considered a kind of healing because it's a spiritual healing. A lot of people get excited about this and they really get into it. And what ends up happening is you build your spiritual life around the devil. You build your spiritual life around fear and saying, I need to do X, Y, and Z in order to keep the devil away, or in order to stop the problems in my life and get what I want. I need to do this and this and this because I've got these spirits bothering me. And you end up building your whole spiritual life around the devil in the sense of fear of him, trying to counteract him, trying to affect him in some way, instead of building your life around God and your relationship with Jesus Christ. So that's the big error in too much focus on this. And that's why I think, partly at least, the church has said down through the centuries, let's not talk about exorcism too much because people basically get their lives derailed by it and they get too fearful. And it's too interesting in the sense of unhealthy interest. Mm-hmm. And you just end up with this like odd situation. Now, another big point of contention that's never going to go away, I don't think, is whether lay people can give commands to demons. So a lot of people like the kind of ego trip and pride in saying, I command you, Satan, get over there. And yes, as senior producer Tim put in the chat there, get behind me, Satan, right? Mm-hmm. We are to rebuke him. But people get into this idea that, like, I have authority to do with him what I will, and I can command him, where to go and what to do. The church, Jesus gave authority to the church over the devil and these evil spirits. But that authority is exercised in the areas where God allows it. So that possessed person comes in and comes to the church and says, please free me of this problem. And the exorcist priest is empowered to say, in the name of Jesus, sit in the chair and shut up till I tell you to answer a question. Mm-hmm. And the demon and the possessed person, they walk over with that body and sit in the chair and look at the priest, and they'll obey.
Right.
And they will acknowledge that they have to obey them. They will even say, I have to obey you, but I don't have to listen to you and you. Right? These other people that are there. Now, once they leave that body, we don't have the authority to say, go to the moon and stay there for 1,000 years. Or go to Mars, or leave the solar system. We don't have authority over dictating where the devil goes and what he does.
Gotcha.
We have authority over our own bodies. So if I get pinned to the wall by an invisible force, I'm allowed to say, in the name of Jesus, get off me, because I have full authority over my body. But I need to be careful about praying over other people and assuming an authority that the church acknowledges and places with the priest, who has permission to do exorcisms.
And getting into a struggle with the demons is never a good thing.
Ask Jesus to do it.
Exactly.
It's no less effective because Jesus is doing it anyway, and it puts him at the center of your prayer instead of your ego.
Perfect. And Adam, real quickly, what do you always say? The best deliverance prayer is?
Get in a state of grace and stay in a state of grace.
Pray the rosary. Yeah.
Praying the rosary.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to pick a prayer, just pray your rosary.
Amen to that. Oh, this was an amazing mailbag edition. I hope we got all your questions answered. We did them by categories, so continue to send emails to us. And thank you so much for being part of the Spirit World family. That'll do it for Adam Bly. I'm Debbie Georgianni. Until next Saturday, have a beautiful and blessed week. We'll see you real soon.